This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
All right, welcome folks, February 23rd edition of the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. A quick note, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to or view this meeting while in progress may do so by accessing the Zoom link in the agenda. We will post a record of this meeting on the Easthampton Media website as soon as we are able. Looks like Brian just joined us as well. Okay, welcome, Brian. All right, so we'll go right into it. There is no one here for public speak today. We do have minutes from the January meeting. Did everybody have a chance to review those minutes? Okay. Anybody notice anything that needed to be adjusted or changed?
I did.
No.
Why is this still on there?
I'd like to move to accept the minutes of the January 19, 2022 meeting as presented.
Second.
Okay, Eric has motioned, GT has seconded. If there's no further deliberation on this, then I'm comfortable moving for a vote on these. I think they look good. Okay, so in that case, we're going to do a roll call vote on the approval of the January 19th meeting minutes. I'm going to start with you, Bob.
Approved.
Thank you. Eric?
Yes.
Yes. JT?
Approve.
Brian? Yeah, you're on mute.
Yeah,
Oh, wait, you weren't there.
You got abstain. Correct.
Yeah, you got to abstain. And then Andy. Andy, you're also on mute.
Sorry, I'm approved, yes.
All right, great. Unanimous then, we can say. So, moving on. All right, so it's our lovely February budget meeting today. And I guess for you guys, Brian and JT, this will be your first one. I really like the new budgets. Well, they're not super new, but as of a few years ago, they really break down the nice for each department of the city, the whole staffing arrangement. It really makes it a lot more clear than the old budgets used to be. So let's move on into these. John, is there anything you'd like to say as we open up this conversation?
Yeah, we should probably start with the capital improvement. I think that's the first thing in everybody's packet. And when you're looking at the capital improvement, you'll see the financial years that are attached to it. So you'll see kind of what we'd like to see sooner than later, and some things we've already put in motion, and other things that will, maybe come down the line a little bit later.
So I was actually curious about seeing these, the capital improvement plans, just about the funding. Like the first one here, we've got the new maintenance shop, which is so exciting to have a new maintenance shop there. But just that the funds are going to be revolving funds and free cash. And I know that's not until actually, this is the budget year we're looking at. So is that cash that we already have on hand, or is that cash that we're expecting to take in over the course of this year?
The free cash is when it gets certified after the audit, after the fiscal year closes by the city. When we don't spend, say, in all our budgets, we don't spend, 15,000 of all our budgets, and school, DPW, everybody, across the line, spend, say, 5% less than their budget total. It goes into free cash, and then it gets certified, and that free cash can be used towards capital.
Okay.
But are we certain how much that's going to be every year, or is that, how does that work? Because I had that as a question also to ask about that.
No, so it's a moving target number.
Okay.
You know, like, for example, last year when I budgeted the park budget, it was budgeted for George to be there the entire year. George retired. Replacing George took 3 or 4 months. So there was salary for 4 months, basically at his position, that got turned back to the city. So we turned back way more than we ever have or would want to, but that was basically just a staffing issue, George retiring, rehiring, hiring at a lower, salary, things like that, where, so we turned over a lot more than so there's things like that happen throughout the city. There's a lot of, turnover between retirement, people leave, things like that. So there's gaps in employment, and that money usually ends up going back into free cash because people don't spend
How do
it.
you get rid of this?
So forgive my ignorance here, and I know this is my first year, but seeing as though that's something that's kind of on a year-to-year basis, depending upon circumstances like, George and things like that, how can we bank on that money for certain projects? As I've looked through here, certain things are earmarked free cash. How can you depend on that money if you don't know how much that money is going to be every year?
We can't put a certain number on it.
Okay.
But that's part of the ask. And if the city also has a free cash account as well. That's kind of rainy day fund. So it's not like, we're going paycheck to paycheck on the city budget.
Right.
So there is, money available that gets rolled into it every year.
Okay.
I guess that's really looking at these projects is my question is really just about funding for each of them. And some of them are projected out, a number of years. You see the 250,000 in 2024, we have 400,000 for the stone building, and I guess I don't understand from looking at this how much, for instance, if I'm looking at the stone building, that's even more money, the 400,000, like how much of that is dependent on state aid, trust funds, or CPA funds, because they're all listed as funding mechanisms.
Yeah, so that is based on, currently we're in the, we signed our agreement for the historical to get the building as a national historic on the registry. So that triggers funding. So when we go and look at grants, we could, possibly see, $150,000, $200,000 grants, whatever it may be, for opportunities. And then that's when we look at CPA and say, now we have a matching, potential, state, federal match of funds. So that's why there's no specific dollar amount associated with any given line item. And what's important about the capital improvement budget and submitting these, whether they get funded, not funded, is we can go back a few years where, some folks in the city were kind of like, why was this never on the capital plan? We knew it, if it needed to be done. So we always have to submit. I've always submitted these projects on a yearly basis, so they don't get off the radar screen, and it doesn't become, well, wait a minute, I never knew that needed work. We will keep these projects, especially the maintenance shop in the pool in the stone building, that they will be continued, whether they get funded or not, they will continue to be put in as our capital improvement plan. These are only requests. These as you can see, the maintenance shop is still the same maintenance shop when Eric worked there. So, it doesn't mean it's getting funded, but this is to make sure everybody's aware that this is on our list, and if when money's available, these things need to get done.
Okay. So from what I understand of this, we're requesting this money. Obviously, there's no guarantee that we're gonna get these things approved.
Right.
And so getting into the nitty over how much exact free cash might be there is kind of like putting the cart before the horse because we don't even have a green light.
Exactly. Yep. These are just, making sure the people that there's a master list within the city. DPW has, dump trucks on it, excavators, there's thing, police has, cruisers, fire department has ambulance on there, so many other things. So everybody has their list, and hopefully, like we got the truck a few years ago. What is that? 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, that was on our list. So that finally got approved. The mower that we have, the Toro, that was, 70,000. We received funding for that. So we do get things off the list. But, the main thing is making sure they're on the list moving forward.
John, is there a priority or something that we're able to push the agenda on any of these, or how is that working right now? We haven't even got to the pool. Obviously, that's a massive one. Next to that is the building, the stone building we were just talking about. So how is that working?
Yeah, the priority is basically when we're looking to get the money. So you can see for like the pool, we've already got feasibility study for this money, designed for next year. The picnic tables are pushed off to the 2014, so a year and a half away. Stone building, getting design money next year, and then hopefully construction money the year after. The truck, hopefully next year, and same with the maintenance shop. So, they're put in place with the idea of asking for funding at that point on need.
Okay. So safe to say anything that doesn't get funded here will just be on our next February's, detail sheet.
Yeah, like these, the picnic tables have been on there. We got those funded. The stone building's been on there. The truck was added this year. And then the maintenance building's been on there. So the only thing new is the truck.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any indication of what you think the situation, what's the likelihood we'll get the new maintenance building? Is there any?
There's no indication one way or the other. The mayor's been in that building more than a handful of times. She's come down and we've had meetings, and she's visited the guys in the shop and stuff. So she knows. We have videos of the paper floats the guys make, of the boats floating through the shop. On a rainy day, they can make a little boat and video as it flows freely. We have to open up the garage door and send it on its way to free. Years ago we did, we hired a consultant out for air quality, and the level of mold was beyond belief in that building. We did have it remedied, but still, when you have that much moisture and water running through wood and just in, on the floor in the bathroom, in the insulation, things like that, it needs to be replaced.
Again, and forgive my ignorance because this is my first budget meeting. How long has the new maintenance building been on this ticker? How many years?
7.
This to me, a normal person, for all intents and purposes, this doesn't even seem like an option. This is a necessity. I mean, how has this been overlooked or bypassed for 7 years when it's an obvious need? It's not even a want, it's a need.
I agree.
It's like Ed Pesiak was looking for a bit, been looking for that since Ed Pesiak was running the show. They were looking for a bit building. We used to actually hold our meetings in there. It was interesting, yes, to say the least.
John, do you think it would help if we were to advocate? And so, ooh, the heck? Am I still here to you all?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I just got a little message saying I've been signed out, but I seem to be here. So I forget what my question was.
You were gonna ask John about advocating.
Advocacy, yeah.
Oh, advocacy. Yes. Is there anything that you think we could do to help with this?
Yeah, maybe if you penned a letter to the finance and then to the mayor on behalf of the commission, I think that wouldn't hurt.
Okay.
I would certainly like to be involved in that with anybody else who would be willing to help.
Absolutely, you can count me in on that as well.
Great. Yeah, I think that we'd like to have a letter for the next meeting that we could vote on and we could submit to finance and anywhere else John thinks appropriate. Because I do agree with JT, that's a need. And it's, I know we've been talking about this the whole time I've been on the commission, and it sounds like a bit longer than that.
Goes back.
Okay. Anybody else or any other questions about this, about the capital plan?
So actually, one quick question, and this is just because I know that people in town will ask me this question in regards to these projects, but has there been any attempt or movement to utilize cannabis funds for any of these projects? Has that been talked about at all?
Not to me.
Okay.
So I understand that with the cannabis funds, at least from what I've heard, that even though there is it's kind of a gray area of what they can use the money for, but they are supposed to somehow tie into cannabis or prevention of drug addiction, or the people going, like it could be infrastructure related to the surrounding area because of increased traffic. They have to find some way to tie it in some way, to cannabis. And again, I know it's very I've heard some examples of some cities. I can't think of specifically what they were, but I remember hearing things that people use cannabis money for. They didn't make any sense, but yeah. So I don't know how stringent these rules are.
So something like the pool, then, if that's the criteria, I think would be a pretty obvious example of, this is a, recreation, wellness, health center that could be a very strong argument could be made that, this is a facility that could be used in prevention of whatever. Just, I know people will ask me that question, so here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you laughing at, Paul?
I was thinking about how many times I've heard people ask for cannabis money for different projects and the different things.
I almost didn't want to ask it, but I was like, I know people are going to ask me about it, so I have to. So here we are.
Yeah.
We'd probably be better off growing it and selling it ourselves. We get the building quicker.
Yeah.
Any further questions on the capital?
No, I mean, these are all essential projects, and I agree with everyone, like particularly the shop is just a disaster. So thank you for putting this together every year, and hopefully we can get some traction on it.
Yeah, and I think a letter of support would be great, Paul. And if you want to pen something and have the commission vote on it for next meeting, that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay. I'd be happy to.
Yeah,
All right.
I mean,
Go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. I was just going to say again, I know I'm new, but looking at all these projects, the only one I look at is optional is the picnic tables. I mean, picnic tables can wait, but all these other projects are essential to the park's function and benefit of the town. And I know I'm new and naive, but I don't see these as options. I see these as necessities. The pool's a necessity. The shop's a necessity. The stone building's a necessity. I mean, the truck's a necessity. I mean, I don't know. Is it me?
No, you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah, you are.
I'm just the new guy. Sorry.
No,
Every
I
year
mean,
I say they're necessities.
and I'll even say, you know, in particular, the pool and the shop, the fact that they're still functioning is testimony to how efficient and how hardworking the crew is to get what they can out of what they have. So, yeah, it's almost like the department. I don't want to say punished is too much of a punitive word, but like you all are doing your job too well. Is in a weird way when it comes down to.
And you know, when you know, George, before George, you know, left and having Ted on board, I mean, they cut like, you know, 8-10 feet sections out of the roof in the maintenance shop and rebuilt it. And you know, you know, they dug a trench, you know, around the shop to try to make sure for drainage for the water. You know, they haven't just sat in a building and let it rot around them. They put lots of, as Eric knows, they put lots of hours and effort in to patchwork that building so they can work in it, and that's the key of the whole thing. It's a city owned building and a work environment, you know, that these guys have to be in. You know, I always kid everybody about you know, don't take our firewood because that's how they heat the building. You know, so you know, and people laugh. I go, no, that's how they heat the building at one time. You know, we have firewood, we have wood for, you know, 2022, we have a wood furnace for the shop to heat. So you know, yeah, I'm glad you guys are fully supportive of that, and I would love to see the time come for something to be done there for them.
Time to
It is
stop
a-
putting the Band-Aids on it and just let it bleed, and let's the emergency response we get then.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
It's almost like you're being punished for being able to keep it going the way it is because you're able to make it work. So, you know, you're
Yeah.
gonna make it work.
Yeah,
is it?
they have. But all right, we beat that one to death.
All right, so let's move on to the budget part. I got my packet all out of order, so I'm looking at the parks budget, but if you have something
Whatever
else in
people
front of
want to
that,
do
we
doesn't
can-
matter to me. You want to go parks?
Let's go with parks.
6,500 parks.
Yeah. Thing that really stuck out to me is that, you know, we added 3/4 of a position.
Hey, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you guys. John, are we gonna do these all together, or are we gonna approve these as we go along?
It's entirely up to Paul. If Paul wants to vote to approve the capital plan as presented, or the whole package, it's whatever you guys want to do.
I think if I recall, we would normally do them all together, but certainly I
Okay.
don't mind doing them individually, Andy.
Well, no worries. I just want to make sure we know what that's fine. I can do the minutes any way you want. I just want to make sure. No, that's fine.
Yeah.
We'll do them all together. That's cool.
And if we have something that needs to be pulled out or whatever out of the
Right.
document, we will. So
Right. Yeah. So.
yeah, so so what you guys are getting for the budget is in much more detail this year than actually we'll go to that you'll see in the city budget. I had to use the old format where they were counting FTEs. I didn't have to do that for the city budget as of yet. And FTEs are full-time equivalencies.
Okay, we're going to be all set. I was able to log on to the Nashwanik Pond meeting and confirmed that they were going back and forth with us, and they're going to reschedule their meeting. Of course, I think we lost John.
And Bob, we lost Bob too.
And we lost Bob, yeah. Oh, there's John.
Yeah, I was saying that the host had another meeting in session, so usually you have a host key, right? And it shouldn't be the same.
And I just went through why we were getting kicked off everything. I went through all the city meetings for tonight. There's no other meeting with our link on here.
No, not with our link, but so we're sharing, there's only so, I think the city has a couple Zoom accounts. And we were battling with ownership of the same Zoom account to host a meeting. Because you can only host one meeting at a time per account. Anyway, I logged on to the Nashwanek Pond meeting and confirmed that they were the committee that we were going back and forth with because they kept getting kicked off when I was going back on. Anyhow, they're going to reschedule their meeting. We shouldn't have any more interruptions today, although we have lost Bob.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Paul suggested that they be the ones to reschedule their meeting.
Yes, I did.
Well,
We have budget, you know. I'm so,
yeah, we have a budget. They're talking about a wrap up of an event.
yeah, I asked
And-
them, are they doing anything, you know, that is urgent? They said no. So it's, you know.
Yeah.
And I was going to suggest we rumble like West Side Story style.
Oh, hey, we got Bob back. Look at that.
If that's a motion, I'll second it.
All right, so yes, we added an FTE as a full-time equivalency. That means how many jobs are creating within the city, so they can you can go through and count how many our department hires based on 40 hours, so it's a full-time position equivalency. So there is I added that position. I talked about it last meeting briefly, and we've talked about it before, but I've added the outside the park position, where it's 39 weeks out of the year, and they take care of grounds outside of Nonotuck Park. You know, the pond, Plain and Strong, Pleasant Green, those types of, you know, Millside, where they're getting trash more often, mowing, weed whacking, things like that. So, you know, and it's kind of funny, we're, you know, talking with Eric about this. And he's like, man, it felt like if we had to go off site, it was like the whole crew for the entire day out of the park getting stuff done. And it feels like that. It certainly does. And with so much going on with the pool, pavilions, ball fields, everything that we do, to have basically the whole crew kind of take off and you know, mow and weed whack and knock out all these properties outside the park. It's very tough. So I put in for this. I'm not sure if it'll stay in the budget. But once again, it's up there. If you don't ask, you can't get. So that position has been presented, and it will be presented in this budget. And if it gets cut, it gets cut. But at least we're laying the groundwork that this is needed. You know, and at the end of the day, it's an added position. But if you look at the overall budgetary numbers, you know, it's only adding probably only about 13,000 to the budget, because previously this position was in our budget as 29.5 week position, or 29.5 hour position for 26 weeks. So it's adding 13 weeks and adding 10 hours per week of the 39 weeks. So extending what we already have and adding 10 hours per week onto that job. So it's not much over what we currently have budgeted. So
I was curious, John, and it's so close, but just looking at the top line salary number in 2020 being just about $14,000, and then the request this year for being just under $107,000. and obviously in 2021, it took a big cut because, the pandemic and all that, and 2022 as well. But I'm just curious, why is it a little bit less than last year for this number for the salaries and still less than 2020?
Because George was at the highest salary base when he left.
Got it. So the replacement is not at
Replacement's
the level of
making
seniority.
less. The replacement of the replacement is making less. Because that's your those two positions are the park foreman and assistant foreman. So that's why. So that's just those numbers are basically automatic. I can't mess with those. That's pay plan position. So that's the number that's inputted in there.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
So I'm going to say this once, and it applies to the cemetery and the recreation budgets also. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but man, when you look at what we pay, what this department pays, the hired help, it's kind of embarrassing, and I'm, and I know it's just, man, it's really is a labor of love for all of you, I'm including you in that, John. So
yes, and the mayor's brought an outside firm in a few years ago to look at the Collins Center, came in out of Boston and look at wages and comparable to other towns and in our area, Western Mass. And we interviewed with them and gave, job descriptions and had to redo job descriptions. And across the board, the guy was like, he just couldn't believe it. He's like, "You guys really love coming to work." And it's like, "Yeah, it's a great place to work." So that has been addressed. The mayor has made a conscious effort working with the treasurer and the city council and the finance committee of the city council. They've all recognized it, and they have over the last few years are trying. And you can't make up for 20 years of lack of wages, but they're making steps in the right direction, and it's showing appreciation for the staff that's there. So they are trying. It's getting better. It's getting better all the way around. But it is it's noticeable for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's great to hear. Yeah, I mean, having it be a great place to work, and it really is. I can speak for that. Still, doesn't pay the mortgage. So
doesn't pay the 9% inflation that we're dealing with.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Thank you for pursuing that.
Yeah.
I know I was shocked when I first saw what we were actually paying for our department. I was just shocked.
Yeah. It's
I'd love to go after you for rampant wasteful spending, John, but I can't find it.
That's one thing. That's one thing. And it's almost to a fault that George and I come from the same ilk of we will not do rampant wasteful spending. And that's been inbred in me my whole life. So it's that's why for us to ask for a position, I don't think we've always been a department that we ask when it's needed. We don't ask for just for the sake of asking. So we continue that trend and we do our best to work with what we have.
All right. I'm pretty satisfied with the parks part with 6,500. How did everybody else feel about this? You ready to go on and talk about one of the other three? Or the other two, rather?
Which one you want to go to next, cemetery or?
Let's go to cemetery, because I do have a question about that.
Okay, so cemetery, you'll see, the organizational overview of positions. The foreman is 35 hours a week. The cemetery labor is only 30 hours a week. And Jerry makes up for that by working hours on Saturdays for the Parks Department to get his 35 hours a week. And he's great about, helping out, coming in, he's can't say enough about, someone talking about someone who loves the park and loves his job. And, he's always willing to come in and help out. So, it's folks like that help the machine run. That's for sure. Then we have the cemetery, Main Street Cemetery, which we've taken over administrative duties for. Sam gets paid a clerical wage on that, 3 hours a week, to put all the, she's been great about putting all the files electronically for the record keeping. I actually did I mapped out the cremation section of what we have for what we know we have. So we actually have electronic maps now for their cremation section over there. So, it's been a work in progress. It's taking some time to write the ship and get it in line with what we have for records and electronically and keeping everything up to date and proper. So we this is, I think this year might be our first official budget, including the Main Street, I believe.
And it is, yes.
Okay, so yeah, so this year, before I was doing it as a representative of the Main Street Cemetery Commission, which I still am. But they wanted bills and expenses to be paid through the city accountant. So it's, everything gets audited through how the city gets audited. So it's proper reporting for income and expenses through the city now. So it hasn't been too bad. One of the things when we took this on was I wanted to make sure we were not going to be doing the maintenance of it, to add, like I said, a 35-hour-a-week person and a 30-hour-a-week person. To add another full cemetery for maintenance would have just been way too much to ask on top of Brookside and East Street. So we continued our relationship with Riverside, and then the senior tax credit program. We have a gentleman who started that last year. He still has hours continuing on until June 1st over there. Would love to see him continue on in that role, or if not, we find someone to replace. If he's not interested, to replace that and continue that. I think that's been it's been a home run to have someone over there and doing those little things. Ted as well has used some of his hours because he has a close connection with that cemetery. So he's gone over and helped out a lot as well to do what he can when he has hours available to get over there.
I had a question about whether the senior tax credit worker, is that reflected in the budget numbers here at all?
No.
Okay. Is it all
No. So
through
that's
the city hall?
Through city. So what I have to do the administration for it. So keep, when he checks in his hours, I got to submit his timesheets to the treasurer's office. I sign off on his timesheets. I track his hours. And then we do an oversight of making sure, hey, make sure you mow this part, weed whack here, whatever. So, we provide oversight for that. So it's not a lot of heavy lifting for me to provide oversight for that, for what the value we get in return for having someone over there doing that type of work.
All right. All right. Does anybody else have questions about the Main Street Cemetery portion of this budget, or the regular cemetery portion? Either cemeteries? Any of the three? Okay, so I see. So 4910 and 4920. So 4910 is the first two cemetery. Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. Well, I'm comfortable with that. There's no further discussion on the cemetery budget. I think we can move to recreation.
Okay, so we're gonna go to recreation,
Moving on.
6310.
Yep.
Once you can just see the organizational overview, myself, Sam, Camp Montauk director, pool manager, seasonal staff. you'll see the FTEs up one because, last 2 years we didn't have the pool. So that adds a full-time equivalency to the budget for payroll.
Oh, got it, because it's seasonal. Okay.
I guess it's not showing on this budget. So in the past, because they've gone to a new template for this, but in the past, we've also shown what we do for wages for that are not budgetary wages. And what we come up with is we provide about $100,000 of wages to out of the revolving account for positions in the Camp Montauk program. School supervisors are included in that as well. So we like to highlight that portion that we provide, additional jobs in for the community that do not get represented in the city budget. So those are not in here, those types of numbers. But if we did ask for, say, school supervisors and Camp non-textual positions to be paid through the budget, we'd be looking at another over $100,000 more in the salary line item for the recreation budget. So, having those programs be self-sufficient and using fees to pay for those salaries helps out a lot.
I'm curious, John, for the temp positions line there, again, I'm looking back at 2020 because, we've only added 0.25 positions to the temp positions, from 2020, but the budget has gone up, like 15 grand almost. Not that that's not a quarter of a full-time employee, but to go from 3.25 employees at 21,000 to 3.5 temporary employees at 35,000 just seems like I'm not sure that makes total sense.
You're looking at camp positions, and that's not reflective monetary wise. Those revolving account, the camp REV.
Oh, you're right. I'm looking at the camp. Yeah.
Yep. So
that comes out of the revolving, so that's not reflected
that's
there.
Okay. So that's not reflective here on the number. We went from 2020 actual for pool for seasonal was one position,
yep.
And then 2 years without the pool, and then back to one position for budgeted.
Okay.
John, just a clarifying question on the pool manager. And forgive me again, has the pool manager in the past also been a lifeguard, like way back when, or is the pool manager something new?
So there's always been a pool manager position. When I first started 12 years ago, the pool manager was not a lifeguard, and we've moved out of that model and have included having the pool manager have a lifeguard. If we can have lifeguard, if we were stuck, we'd go without it. But we recommend lifeguard qualifications included in the pool manager. Last year, we had a person apply for the pool manager position that was CPO certified, which is certified pool operator, which is something I'm CPO certified, so I'm able to run the pool. George was CPO certified, and then when Dan took over for George's position, it was required that he becomes CPO certified. So if the pool manager didn't have lifeguard training and they had CPO, that's just as valuable to have someone who knows chemicals and knows the ins and outs of the pool. So, but yes, the model has changed. Before they didn't need lifeguard qualifications.
Okay, thank you.
I see it says here that you're looking to expand recreational opportunities into pocket neighborhoods.
Yes.
Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, so that's what we talked about with the committee for the new city that I'm on, looking to get to see what the community needs are for that area. And as we look to explore those spots, same with Plain and Strong, there's interest from the neighborhood over there about potential expansion or seeing what else we can do with some of the property that does not have playgrounds on there. So, looking at these types of parks that, kind of goes hand in hand with what having an outside, maintenance worker who can get into these areas more often, and then expanding on those areas is kind of like the trail to that position. We want to do more for those pocket parks in those areas, but we need staffing who can spend time, getting the trash, mowing, weed whacking, doing the things that upkeep to keep a park going and looking nice. So that's our goal with that.
Okay. All right, are there any other questions for this section of the budget? Section 6310. Okay. Where did my agenda go? All right, folks, so we've now covered the budget. I don't think we missed anything, as well as the capital improvement plan. I know that we'd like to take a vote today on approving these for submission.
Just so you know, we're not having our meeting after you guys, so you can continue.
Thank you, Lanny.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'd like to move to approve the budgets 4910, 6310, 6500 as presented, as well as the capital improvement sheet as discussed.
Second.
Okay, was that JT?
Yes.
Yeah, great. All right.
I'm not sure
so-
4920 got into that motion.
Oh, because
4910 and
6500,
4920.
6310, 4910,
4920 is right under.
it's stapled to 49.
and 4920. Okay, my apologies.
No problem. Just want to make sure it's on there.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the budget as presented. 6500, 6310, 4910, 4920, as well as the capital improvement plan. So we have the floor open for any further discussion or any other comments or last notes or questions before we vote on this. Okay. Well, in that case, I think we're ready to take a vote on these numbers.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna do another roll call vote. I'm gonna start with you, Eric.
Yes.
Okay, JT,
Approve.
Andy,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
and Brian.
That's a yes.
Okay, so then we are unanimously in support of these budgets. Thank you so much, John, for your work on these.
No problem. My pleasure.
Okay,
Flyer.
so let's keep going on the agenda. We saw policies and fees. Was there something that we needed to talk about from last meeting or?
No, I just left this on there because, with a rolling target of COVID, regs and things like that, I think we got to be prepared at every meeting just in case we have to change any policies regarding rentals coming up. The Board of Health lifted the mask order on much of the city today, as a matter of fact. They voted on it last night, so effective immediately. So nothing new on to report on that for this meeting, but it will be on. I will be keeping that on throughout our year as we move forward, just in case anything does arise.
All right. All right, well, let's continue then. What about park programming?
Program. So we've, diving into camp hiring and camp. We have a meeting tomorrow actually with the Board of Health and the Human Resource Department to talk about upcoming camp season and hiring and requirements and things like that. So, there's a lot that goes into getting camp up and going for the year. We do have good news. Our camp director is looking to reapply for that position. So we're excited about that opportunity to have him come back. The Arts in the Park program, music on Friday nights, we're looking to get that going back this year. We're probably looking at about 4 shows though, compared to 6 or 7 in the past. Several reasons. We don't have the revenues. We had 2 years without revenue. So we don't have the type of funding in place that we used to have. We will send out letters, but once again, we want to be cognizant of the business community and not, ask too much or expect a lot out of the business community. For the last 2 years, they've struggled. And we don't want to put any further burden on them. They get hit by all the youth organizations, all the other groups and all the other charitable organizations in town. So we don't want to ask for too much and be respectful for them as well. So, but we'll send letters out. Not everybody has struggled in this economy. So we will get those letters out, but we are looking to bring a movie night back as well. So, so that's at least one movie night. We're going to try. We're looking at the citywide tag sale again, coming back this year. So, trying to get back events that have been, that haven't happened in a few years and get and back into the swing and expand on them. So we're excited about that. Excited to hear the news from the Board of Health last night. We'll know more coming tomorrow, but I think that hopefully things continue to trend in the right direction for a great summer.
Just out of curiosity, John, for the sponsorship or the underwriting of the Arts in the Park for the approximately, and I'm not expecting a hard dollar number, but how much revenue do we generally get from private contributions?
About $3,000.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and it's tough to get a musical group. They all come in with, we'll come for, $1,800. And I tell them, well, I have 600. And they're like, well, if we're free, we'll do it. And they, most people are pretty good. Most of the bands, they'll negotiate and we negotiate down and it's an hour and a half on a Friday night. It's tough for them because, it is only an hour and a half, but it is a Friday night and they could go make, $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 at a venue somewhere else, a wedding or whatever. So, we do what we can with the limited budget that we have for that.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
I know it's partly depends on what happens with the pandemic, but do you think we'll have a back to normal Harvest Fest?
Yeah, so that's one of the things I really liked last year. I thought last year was awesome. So maybe a hybrid between the Harvest Fest from before and last year's model. I thought it was great. I thought it was to see it be a real family friendly event last year and see so many kids in blankets and watching the movie and the cartoon and I thought it was great. So we'll see. We're talking about how we're going to manage that, but I also love the hay rides and the events and the music and the food trucks and all that other stuff coming in. So we're going to figure out kind of a mismatch between the two, but I thought it was pretty special that night.
That was, and I think that was really big for the community. They haven't had not a whole lot of events. The movie was a big hit for sure.
Yeah, it was great.
All right. Well, I'd like to keep it moving. If there's no further questions, we could go on to CPA projects.
So we got the Shannon from Pioneer Valley Planning Commission regarding the historical designation. She's been, asking for little tidbits here or there, but she's rolling on that project. The beta group, I will have some sort of preliminary design probably for our next meeting. I'm meeting with them next week after. And so before we meet again, I will be meeting with the beta group and to go over and try to put something, have something in, where nothing concrete, but at least one of the proposals of what we'd like to see. So look for that for our next meeting. For a discussion point will be the pool area from the beta group. And just a reminder, the beta group is the ones that are doing the outside of the pool, shading, access for accessibility, fencing and those types of things.
All right. Well, I'm sure we will all look forward to that. Do you have anything to talk about further about park facilities? I know we kind of covered a lot of that with the capital plan conversation.
Yeah, so park facilities, just a couple of things. One of the things that we noticed was the one of the trees at the cemetery that holds the wire for the flag across the pond needs to be removed or taken down. You could put your fist through it. I mean, it's a danger. So we've asked the group that puts the wire from Whiteley side to our side to move the wire off of that tree so it doesn't pull it in or do any further damage. The wire to do any damage, but the tree itself, I don't want anything pulling on it, and it's bad. If you see it, it's I haven't seen a tree that badly damaged in such a short amount of time. So they're gonna move that wire off of that tree, and then we'll look to get it taken down, or we'll cut it down ourselves or whatever. Probably why the ice is still on the pond, hopefully. So it has a landing area, and we can safely remove all the wood off of it, rather than just cutting it and dropping it straight into the pond. And then then it interferes with canoeists and fishermen and everything else. So,
did the wire cause the damage to the tree?
No. It's I don't know what kind of bird it was, but if you see it, it's weird. There's just like softball. The wire's way up high, and there's just softball holes, and there's a bunch of them, and it's a huge crater all the way coming down through. So it had nothing to do with the wire itself. It's just that something got to that tree, and it is just beating the crap out of it.
Okay.
Also on park facilities, we received a $10,000 earmark in the legislative ARPA money by State Rep Carey, and Senator Vilas sponsored us for 10 grand. So I have submitted the first round of paperwork to the state, and it takes about 16 weeks or so, 20 weeks it could take before we get the money. But Senator Carey, Representative Carey, Dan, put that forward for us for open space for community enjoyment. So publicly thank him. I've already reached out to him and thanked him for thinking of us. He had some really kind words about our department. So it was great to see that in the budget for us for moving forward. And then when we get it, we can talk about what to do with it.
That's good. Does this action typically merit an official, statement of thanks to the representative or the senator?
I don't know. When I worked at the Boys and Girls Club, we always would send a card, a thank you card from the kids. So we gave kind of that personal touch when we got earmarked money. But I did reach out to him personally and thanked him for thinking of us already.
It's outstanding. It's nice that somebody like that's thinking about the Parks Department,
Yeah.
sharing some of the love. So,
Hey, I've always said any alumnus of Easthampton Little League is okay in my book. So,
yeah. All right. So I guess let's finish it off. Is there any old and continuing business?
The only thing I had to say, and I don't have Facebook, was happy birthday, Paul, to take an hour and 15 minutes out of your birthday to, lead a meeting. Thank you very much for putting the effort in.
Know where I'd rather be.
My age, you don't even care. You don't want to celebrate. You'd rather be in a meeting.
Yeah.
Are we going to sing?
No, but I'm going to have a real nice dinner though when this is done.
Good. That's all I have.
All right, folks. Well, this has been a great meeting. Sorry about the interruption, but hey, we made it through. If there's no further discussion, someone could make a motion to adjourn. Eric looks very excited to make this motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second that
JT
emotion.
seconds. All right.
Oh, wait, Bob, sorry. We didn't, hold on. Bob, isn't
How
this
hasn't
your?
it a double yet tonight?
He hasn't.
What's that? I've been listening.
Yeah.
Well, I'll rescind my motion to adjourn if you'd like to take the lead.
Take the lead. Let's adjourn.
All right.
All right. Bob makes the motion. JT again seconds. All right. If there's no further discussion on this motion, I'd like to take a roll call vote. We'll start with you, Eric.
Yes.
Okay. JT.
Yes.
Andy.
Yes.
Bob.
Oh, yeah.
And Brian.
Yes, and happy birthday.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, gentlemen. We are adjourned. And see
Thank
you
you.
all
Have a
next
good night.
time. Thank
Enjoy
you.
your dinner.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.